Hi everyone and welcome to this new lecture. Today's topic is the second declension. So I think that this lecture is going to be quicker because there is not really too much to explain about the second declension, but we're gonna review it together. So the first thing about the second declension is that the second declension mostly has masculine names and not many feminine names. So this is the opposite, for example, for the first declension. This is not a tricky declension, and it is kind of easy to learn the endings. Also because there are, as we will see, there are many correspondences between some endings of the first declension and some endings of the second declension. However, there is a difference which has to be kept in mind, that is that differently from the first declension, the second declension has also the neuter gender, and so we basically have to learn a new set of endings. There are some fun facts, so to speak, about the second declension. For example, masculine and feminine are declined in the same way, just as the first declension. For masculine and feminine, there are two endings of the nominative. The most common one is the ending in us. But there are also some nouns, not many in fact, which can have a nominative in er or ir. In both cases, the declension will be similar. And something that we have already said, that the second declension has the neuter gender. So what I wanted to do together with you was to decline a noun with a us nominative. Let's start with a word which is very used in Italian grammar books, which is lupus, the wolf. I'm gonna read it aloud. Lupus, lupi, lupo, lupum, lupo, lupe. Lupi, luporum, lupis, lupos, lupis, lupi. Let's see some noticeable features. For example, as we did for the first declension, if you isolate the stem and then you attach the endings, you basically have learned the second declension. So again, there is not really too much to understand here, you have just to memorize the endings. As we can see, we will have in this case a nominative in us, the genitive in I, a dative in o. Dative, which is in this case equal to the ablative. The accusative is in and as you can see is pretty similar to the accusative of the first declension. So lupum and rosam share a vowel plus the m and m in the ending. As for the plural, we have the genitive orum, which is very similar to the one of the first declension, which is arum. The ending is the same for dative and ablative. We have both is. For the accusative, in the second declension we have os, so lupos, while in the first declension we have as. And this is because every declension has a distinctive theme vowel. What is a theme vowel? A theme vowel is a vowel that links the stem to the ending. The first declension has the a, so the a as theme vowel, while the second declension has the o as theme vowel. So there is something that you probably have noticed. The nominative and the vocative do not share the same form. So, do you remember when I said that nominative and vocative always have the same form? Ha! I tricked you! No, it is not true. I did not really trick you. So this statement is generally true in 99% of the cases. The only exception is with the nouns in us of the second declension. Because the form of the nominative and the form of the vocative is different, but it is the only case. In all of the other declensions, you will find nominative and the accusative, nominative and vocative sharing the same form. Another exception, always in the second declension, is nouns that have a nominative in "-ius", which have a vocative ending with a long "e". So for example, if you have the word filius, the vocative will be filii. Probably you heard the words of Caesar when he was killed by Brutus and by other conspirators. Famously, he uttered this sentence, "Quoque tu, Brute, filimi." So, you too, Brutus, my son. And so in this case, as you were able to hear, the vocative of filius is filii. So now we have the nouns with ending in "er". Sometimes you can also find nouns ending in "ir", but the reasoning is not much different. So for this declension, I chose ager, agri, which is the field. I'm gonna read it as usual. Ager, agri, agro, agrum, agro, agri, agrorum, agris, agros, agris. What is noticeable is that in this case, with the ir ending, nominative and vocative again share the same form. So basically, the endings are equal. To a noun ending in "us", the only thing which will change is the nominative, and so accordingly the vocative. But if you know the endings of a noun in "us", you will know the endings even for a noun in "er" or "ir". Let's go to the tricky point. So, neuter nouns can be a little tricky because one has to learn a different set of endings. A particular thing about the neuter nouns of the second declension is that they have the nominative in So it can also look an accusative masculine. So one has to be careful and to identify the gender first and then decline the word. I'm gonna read it and then we can discuss it. Donum, doni, dono, donum, dono. Dona, donorum, donis, dona, donis. There is nothing different from the other declensions. You can always isolate the stem and attach the endings. What you notice is that the endings for nominative, vocative, and accusative are kind of different, because for the singular we have an ending in and for the plural we have an ending in "a". So you have to be careful, because now when you see a noun which ends with an "a", you might think at first glance, oh, wonderful, it is a first declension noun. You cannot really tell, because you have to identify the gender first. Because if it's neuter, it could even be a neuter plural, either nominative, vocative, or accusative. This is not too difficult though, because when you have a neuter noun and you have the nominative form, you are sure that the vocative and the accusative will be the same. As I write at the end of the slide, a neuter name, regardless the declension, always has the nominative ending equal to the accusative and the vocative ending. As you can see for the singular of donum, nominative, vocative, and accusative, all of them are donum. So if you have one form, you're going to automatically have the other two. Same for the plural. The nominative is dona, and so you can be sure that even the vocative and the accusative are going to be dona. In the end, I wanted to talk a little bit about DEUS, which your book lists in the notes for the first chapter, but I think that the best thing is to talk about it once you have learned the second declension. Because DEUS is one of those nouns who have an irregular declension. It means that we can find multiple forms for different cases. there is not much to explain here. The only thing you have to do is to memorize it. I can guarantee that you will find all of these forms while translating a Latin text, because of course the gods were a very important part of Roman society. Roman religion in general is really embedded into civil life, and so you will find invocations to the god very often, or just in Roman texts authors talk about gods a lot. And so I can guarantee that this declension is useful to know, because you will find these forms very often. So I'm just going to read it as usual. Deus, Dei, Deo, Deum, Deo. Plural. Di, Dei. Deorum, Deum. Dis, Deis. Deos, Dis, Deis. So in your textbook you will find that Deus does not have the vocative form. That is not really true. Here the textbook is tricking you. I'm not the only one tricking you here. Because it may happen that sometimes for the vocative you find the form Deus or Dive, but both forms for the vocative are kind of rare.